It has been just about putting one foot in front of the other day in and day out and not stopping and not reflecting and not turning back to look at the journey and say, look at how far we've come, Ari. I'm so proud of you. I am so happy that we're here. I am so grateful that you kept going despite all of the odds, despite everything that you experienced in life, despite what anybody has ever said to you. Look at how far we've come. We've made it. Because the voice in my head that pushed me to survive, the voice in my head that focused me on putting one foot in front of the other, never felt like it was safe enough to slow down. And it, Lord help us, did not feel safe enough to feel like I was somebody deserving of praise or accomplishment or love. And so I will be perfect. I'll do everything right. I will do everything to the T exactly as I want to do it. And then I will trip myself right before the finish line. Because that's the voice that I know. When I started this channel 3 years ago, I started by saying that I had a rule that I was going to make a video every single week for the next 3 years. And I started by uploading these videos on Sundays. Well, recently, with everything that has been going on in my life, I've given myself a little bit more leeway, a little bit more forgiveness in terms of coming up with like this idea that I just was going to post on Sundays, which, by the way, I came up with arbitrarily. Anyway, I digress. Some days I'd post my video on a Monday, or some days I would post it on a Wednesday. But because the last few weeks have been pretty crazy for me, I've been in sort of like a rhythm or a routine where I've let myself wait until Friday to post them. And so the last few weeks I've been posting on Friday. And I think the last video that I made, I ended up recording on a Wednesday, posting on a Saturday morning. And then I thought to myself, well, it's Saturday. That means technically I'd need to make a video like basically right now and post it again so that I don't miss a week. And I thought about that for maybe 15 seconds, and I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not posting a video this week. And if you look at the cadence of when I've been posting, then maybe you would miss that. But I won't miss that because I'm the one who made the rule, who set the obligation, who set the standard for this channel. And it might not seem like a big deal. It doesn't necessarily even seem like a big deal to me, but I made a commitment, I made a promise to myself that I would post one video a week, every single week for 3 years. And I think that it is kind of ironic and also totally not surprising whatsoever that basically 2 weeks before this 3-year anniversary, I missed a week. After everything that has happened over the course of my life over the past 3 years, every single week that was stressful or aggravating, or I was going on vacation, I was able to make this work. I was able to always post a video. And I don't think that it is a shocker because I know myself that I let myself miss a week right before I almost did it. I think I let myself miss a week because this was just me, yet again, performing self-sabotage. Because the truth is, I did have the energy. I did have the capacity, the capability to push myself to get that video turned around really quickly and to not miss a video, not miss an upload. I had that in me. I just chose not to do it. I chose not to act on it. I took the reminder that was set to go off on my phone, which tells me every week to post a video, and I marked it as complete without even the slightest thought that I was going to even attempt to record a video. And I want to sit here and tell you that I don't know why I'm like this. But the truth is, I know why I'm like this. I just don't see myself as a winner. After everything that I've done in my life and after all the work that I have done emotionally to get myself into a better place, a healthier place, I still will trip myself while I'm running downhill because it's so familiar for me. It's so familiar for me. The dialogue, the fundamental storyline within me is that I'm not perfect. And so if I am not messing up, I am going to sabotage myself. I'm going to set some system off because that's unfortunately the narrative that still plays in my head, that I allow myself to play in my head. And I'm working on dismantling that story. I'm working on viewing myself as a fundamentally lovable human being who's worth all of the good things that I am so quick to tell other people are true about themselves, but am so slow and so sticky and so unable to turn back onto myself. I am working on that, but it's hard. It's really hard, and it's a lot easier for me to get to a week and a half, 2 weeks, basically like 2 uploads before this 3-year anniversary and say, that's it. I'm done. And maybe part of the reason why I waited almost 3 full years to do that is because if I let myself do that 6 months in, or a year in, or a year and a half in, or even 2 years in, then in my head, it might have been a little too easy for me to give myself a free pass again. 1 more time, 2 more times, or maybe to just throw my hands in the air and say, who gives a crap? Because I missed 1 upload and now I'm going to do it again because I messed up once. I'm a failure once. I might as well just be a failure forever. Maybe that's why I waited until 2 weeks before, so that I wouldn't be able to fall victim to the temptation of letting that kind of a storyline unravel without my control, unravel without me wanting to choose that end to the story. But in either case, it doesn't really matter, because here I am again, letting myself believe, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it is so much easier for me to mess up and be relieved that the story that I've told myself is true, that I've made it true. It's so much easier to live there than to have done this instead, which was to, in theory, put my head down, say, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm a little overwhelmed, but I made a promise and I'm not going to back down from that promise, and make that upload happen. It would have been a lot harder for me. I know this might not make sense, but bear with me. It would have been a lot harder for me to get through 3 years of making that 1 video upload every single week and saying, I did that. I did something exactly like I wanted to have done it. And the reason why that would have been hard is not because it's not objective. It is objective. It's because I would have had to stare the facts right in the face, that I did something exactly as I had set out to do it, that against all odds and all challenges, and as hard as it is to show up here every single week consistently without coming up with any excuse. Because yes, as much as I want to be here, and that's true, it's also true that this is really hard sometimes to manage and balance with everything else that makes my life so full and rich and gratefully worth living. It would have been really hard for me to look at that fact, because if I stared that fact in the face, objectively it would have been true that I did exactly what I wanted to set out to do, but I wouldn't have been proud of myself. I know that as hard as it has been, I wouldn't have been proud of myself. I would have seen it as a fact, like a robot, staring at a very hard and challenging goal that I should, in theory, be proud of. And fuck the upload that I missed last week. I should be proud of the fact that I was able to do this for 3 years, and that I think that I want to keep doing these every single week, even though it is really hard to. I wouldn't have been proud of myself. I would have looked myself in the face. Although actually, if we're being honest, I wouldn't have done that because that's really hard for me to do. But I would have thought about it for barely any time at all. And I would have shoved it under the rug and said, so what? You set a goal and you hit it. Why would you be proud of that? To me, setting a goal and reaching it isn't something to be proud of. It isn't something to praise. It isn't something to celebrate or to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment from. No, my response to setting and achieving a really hard goal is to objectify it, to just look at the facts and be like, congratulations, you did what you said you were going to. Do you want a medal? Do you want a medal for holding to your word? You're so special that you said you wanted something and you got it. And that voice, that's the voice that I'm avoiding. That's the real reason I didn't upload a video last week. Because to let myself be proud of myself, despite everything that I've been through, is one of the hardest things for me to experience. It's one of the hardest things for me to feel. I feel so icky at the thought of trying to feel proud of myself, to praise myself, to celebrate myself. These are the hardest emotions that I've ever had to face, that I've ever thought about feeling. When I do hard things and my friends look at me and they say, you should be really proud of yourself. That's really incredible. It's like nothing. It doesn't enter. It doesn't go in. It doesn't go in because my whole life I have just put one foot in front of the other and I have done what I've needed to do. And I've called that survival. And it has been exactly that. It has been about survival. It has been just about putting one foot in front of the other day in and day out and not stopping and not reflecting and not turning back to look at the journey and say, look at how far we've come, Ari. I'm so proud of you. I am so happy that we're here. I am so grateful that you kept going despite all of the odds, despite everything that you experienced in life, despite what anybody has ever said to you. Look at how far we've come. We've made it. Because the voice in my head that pushed me to survive, the voice in my head that focused me on putting one foot in front of the other, never felt like it was safe enough to slow down. It never felt like it was safe enough to pause. It never felt safe enough to reflect. And it, Lord help us, did not feel safe enough to feel like I was somebody deserving of praise or accomplishment or love. And so I will be perfect. I'll do everything right. I will do everything to the T exactly as I want to do it. And then I will trip myself right before the finish line. Because that's the voice that I know. I had this thought a few days ago. It came from this old book that I read a long time ago. It's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. He was one of the co-founders of PayPal. And in the early part of the book, he has this section where he talks about how he interviews candidates for jobs. And one of the questions that he asks every single candidate is, tell me something that you believe to be true that is contradictory, that most people in the world do not agree to also be true. And he talks about how people will say things like, I don't think God is real. Or he'll bring up things that people think others don't think about or people don't agree with, but most of them do. And for years, on and off, I've thought back to that question and said, I have no idea what I believe to be true that nobody else in the world really does. But last week I got it. After I skipped my upload, I got it. This is what I believe, that I don't think anybody else in the world really thinks, but it's true for me, which is that it is so much easier to be perfect than it is to be good. It is so much easier for me to be a robot and check in and check out of life, tap in, tap out, punch in, punch out, do things one after another like A, like B, like C, like a robot, perfectly. It is so much easier for me to do that than it is for me to do an okay job and give myself grace, to do my best and say that my best is good enough, to be satisfied with the effort that I give, whether the effort that I give is 100% the maximum that I could give or less. I can be perfect all day. Being good is another story for me. And I hope one day that's not the case. But for now, that's the truth of why I missed an upload last week. And it doesn't surprise me. But I hope one day it does. I know one day it will surprise me. That I lived my life like this, that narrative, that person in my head who tells me that I'm not good enough, that they were there for this long. I know one day it will surprise me. But alas, today is not that day. That voice is unfortunately very much still alive in me. But I'm learning how to dismantle it, how to let it go, how to let that voice down. So a voice of, hey, Ari, you're good enough. You did your best, and that was damn good enough. I'm so proud of you. So that voice can come up for air within me, lead me through the rest of my life. I know she's there because I've met her before. She's the one who got me to climb a mountain in Utah with very little outdoor climbing experience. She's the one that literally took a leap of faith and jumped off a cliff. I've met that girl before. I've met that woman before. And I cannot wait for the day when I've made a home for her, so that she doesn't just visit me every once in a while when I've given her the conditions to come forth, but that she feels that I am home and she can just stay here and be the guide, the voice of truth, the voice of reason, so that I don't need to do things like set really lofty goals and self-sabotage myself because I don't believe that I'm worthy or deserving of accomplishing them. And even if I do accomplish them, then they're nothing to be proud of because I've just done what I said I was going to do. And if I did what I said I was going to do, then it must have not been hard enough. The strong woman in me, I have to remind myself that she's there and she's just waiting for me to learn how to treat her with respect so that she can take us home. Thank you for being here for this video and for however long that you've been here on this channel with me. I love you, and I will talk to you next week. Goodbye.